got the sign-in sheets going.
All right, here. Can't hear me? There we go. All right. So this is part of a series, and this session basically serves as the foundation for additional training that's going to be happening. Now, many of you have already gone through some of the training because we've had the customer service training that started with Ruby. So that was a great kickoff. We wanted to get this foundation for everybody in here, but the timing didn't quite work out, so apologize for that. But at least you got to start with an exciting one, right? So that was good. So this presentation, we're going to be doing this one and two more, is to provide you with basically the why and what of what we're doing. And there's a whole series of training events that's going to happen. All of that fits in with employee training. And when I say employee training, that means every employee. It means management. It means frontline. It means supervisors. So it's for all of us to build all of our capabilities and skills. Now, as I said, there's more coming, and there's a whole series that's been laid out by the Human Resources Department. And so watch for those. Sign up for those because those are going to be crucial to what we're trying to accomplish. And they also build your skills that you can use here, use at home, use everywhere you go, and wherever you work. This morning, we welcome Charles Cram to us, and he's going to talk to us about basically organizational change and the process that we go through when we have organizational change. Charles is with i3 Integrate. He has 30-plus years in design and construction management. He's worked on large municipal bond programs, and that's why he's here with us, because we have a large municipal bond program we're trying to accomplish. So he's here assisting us with the 2K projects, and he's part of our overall contract with CH2M Hill. So I'll turn it over to Charles. Welcome.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for tolerating my trying to get you all up front. There's probably twice as many people here as we anticipated, so kudos to you for all showing up. The agenda. Basically, there's two parts to this. What I'm going to do is lay out sort of in a big way transformational change and what's usually involved with it. Then Roger's going to take you through some of the specifics associated with some of the things that Commerce City's trying to do. So what we're going to focus on, I'll give you a few definitions, a few theories. I'll talk to you about why organizations change or don't change, why employees change or don't change. And then I'm just going to talk about the 5 phases of organizational change. And again, these are general overviews. These are not the specifics of what's going to happen when Roger gets up. So we're going to start with an exercise. When we did this at the leadership retreat in June, we got all kinds of comments. Because the first part I'm going to ask you about is pick a critter that you think currently represents Commerce City. Then the second part is to pick a critter that you think would represent where you think Commerce City should go, what desired state. So we'll start with the give me a critter, I don't care if it's an animal, a bird, an insect, that you think currently represents Commerce City. And we got
one of those up there?
Nope.
Or just
anything you want to come up with. And In the leadership meeting, one of the things that were thrown out was sloth.
Sloth, yeah.
Yeah, because the organization moves slow. Okay? They had a lot wilder ones than that, so don't feel like you're not inhibited. Just throw out whatever you want. What do you think, what kind of critter currently represents the organization? Give me another one. Chameleon. Why? Give me one reason it's a chameleon. Because we're currently changing. Okay, give me another one. And here's the way the volunteerism works here. If you're not volunteering, I get to volunteer you. Okay? I need another one. Give me another critter. How you currently are. A turtle. Why? It's slow too. It's got a protective shell, kind of. Yep, protects itself. Give me another one. That's that side of the room. Need another one over here. Who's got one?
Crayfish.
A crayfish. Why?
Well, it keeps shedding its shell and putting on a new one.
Ooh,
It keeps increasing.
that's a good one. Okay, thank you. Did everybody hear that? Crayfish keeps losing its shell and expanding and getting a new one. Okay. Another one. Over here on this side.
Caterpillar.
A what?
Caterpillar.
Because
Still kind of slow, but we're evolving and changing. And
into the butterfly. Gotcha. Or moth, whatever. All right, thank you. One more from each side. What do you got over here? In the back somewhere. And with all the arguing with me about crowding in, I know you can talk, so. Back there, what do you got? Buffalo. Why? It's what? It's old? I will not take offense to that comment. Moving on. Over here. One more. How it currently is. And then we'll talk about what you think it's going to evolve into. Who's got one? Back row. How you doing? Got an answer?
I like buffalo.
Hey, that's kind of a cop-out, but we'll deal with it. Okay. So if that's what you think it currently is, and where's Roger? Or John, what did one of you, what else did we hear at the leadership retreat that they threw out about the current state? Sloth was one. Remember any others?
We had beetles.
Beetles. The grasshopper. Forgot about that. Okay. You got it. All right. Now the question is, so what kind of critter do you think you're going to evolve into or would like to evolve into? What do you got? Whoops.
Bald eagle.
Bald eagle. Why?
Well, it protects its young all the way till it's ready to leave. It always watches over its nest. It takes care of what's in the vicinity of itself instead of what's around.
That's excellent. Thank you. All right. Over here. Whoops. I'm sorry.
Since it was a good answer, can I leave?
What's another one over here? What do you got? What do you want to evolve into? I'm not leaving here. And I know you, Yvonne, so either you're going to have to say something after a while or I'm going to pick on you to get an answer. I'll throw one out for you. Actually, chameleon works real well for what you want to evolve into. Chameleons, one, adapt, color. Two, they are well balanced because of their tail and their claws. And they are efficient because they have what's called a projectile tongue that goes out 2 to 2.5 times their body length, and they get insects like that. Very efficient, very effective adapter. I'll be back in a minute. What do you got over here? Where are you going to go? Give me critter. What do you got?
Beaver.
A what?
Beaver.
A beaver. Why?
Industrious, hardworking.
You're on top of this. You know that? Good for you. All right, I'm back over here. This time I'm not giving you any clues. I'm just going to pick someone. Who hasn't spoken?
I spoke earlier this morning.
When you refuse to come up front. All right, I'll give you a bye on that, I guess.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, who else, real quick? How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. You got an answer?
Go with a badger.
Oh, badger.
Let's go with a badger.
Why a badger?
Because they're tough.
Tough. Okay, there you go. See, this isn't hard. One more from each side. What do you got over here?
What about an ant?
An ant. Why?
They all work together and they rebuild.
Good one. And last but not least, one more time over here. Who's got one? You answered, so you're safe. Oh, you had one?
I was going to say a starfish.
A starfish. Why a starfish?
Because if we, if something gets cut off, they kind of keep growing.
Oh, that's pretty. Hadn't thought about that. That's a good one. I like it. Everybody hear that? Starfish. Some part gets cut off, it just grows back. Oh, pardon me. Okay, here's some definitions for you. I'm going to move this because I'm sure it's blocking you. There, I'll get this out of the way. Okay, culture, shared beliefs, customs, and values. Different from an organization which is a group or groups formed to go after a sole purpose or purposes. Organizational change, and there's a difference between change and transformation up here. The big difference is significance. If you're just thinking of an organization changing, it's to modify or alter. When you think of transformation, you think the organization is drastically going to change. And part of what Roger will talk about is, defining some of what the city's about and where it's going and the kind of transformation or change it's looking for. 3 types of change are evolutionary, revolutionary, and visionary. Evolutionary is very slow, it's very gradual. You think about some of the process improvements that go on, they're incremental and they're small. If you think of revolutionary, usually it's from the outside, it impacts the organization. So if you're thinking 9/11 and the impact it had not only on the country, but the companies and the municipalities involved, tremendous impact. If you're thinking visionary, what you're thinking of is someone is taking the current state, evaluating it and saying, what's good about it, but where do we want to go from here? And it usually involves the leaders, the managers, and the employees to effectively move forward to the new desired state, and it's not something you do in the short term. Usually it's 3, 4, 5, it could be 10 years out for some firms. So that's the difference between the 3 of them. I'm not going to go into a lot on the theories. In the 60s, they basically said change is just 3 steps. Where you are, change it, embed it. Then they got to the 80s and the 90s and they came up with, well, there's really 7 things going on. So you take your shared values in the center, and then you take the other S's. It's called a 7S. So structure and staff and the rest of the S's would be evolved around that shared values, and you started working on those separately. And then the latest one, or the one that's caught on, say, for the last, say, 10 years, maybe longer, is Cotter's 8-step, which basically says, define the urgency of the need, put together a team to change it, anchor it, and you'll get there. That's all I'm going to say about those. One of the most important things you have to do is figure out where you currently are. A lot of people start jumping in and changing things, and they never figure out really what has made them successful. What are the opportunities for improvement? What are the obstacles and challenges they have to overcome? It's like saying you want to go to Steamboat, and you think you're in Commerce City and you're actually in Durango. I mean, how do you plan that trip? So you have to figure out where you are first before you can figure out the roadmap to get to where you want to go. Okay, this slide catches everybody's attention. Okay? Rodney was here earlier and I was flipping through the slides and he saw that in a heartbeat. What was that slide? Okay. If you've been noticing Coors, or Bud Coors and Millers for the last year, they talk about changing, what they did to change the can, the container. So they've changed the color, and they've changed the wording, and they've made the mouth bigger on some of them. But all you're doing is changing the surface. You're not really changing what's in the can. And transformation and change should change what's in the can, not just change the can. If it's going to take hold and last, it has to be more than just changing superficial things. Whoops, let me go back. So, let's go. We're back to questions again. Why do organizations change?
So they don't become stagnant.
So they don't become stagnant. I'm sorry?
So we can move forward.
What's another one? Whoop, need to be,
Meet the needs of the citizens.
I'm sorry.
Meet your needs of your citizens.
Meet the needs of your citizens. What's another one?
Sales, revenue.
Revenue. Not a bad thing. What else? One more over here on each side. What do you got?
To deal with the external changes, cultural, technology, whatever.
There you go. Deal with external changes. One more over here. Why do you change? Why does an organization change? I'm sorry.
Changing population.
Change in population. And actually, Roger and his is going to talk about how some of those external changes in Commerce City, like growth, are causing you to change. Here's some of the answers. And I think you hit a bunch of them. Growth and diversification. You're growing. You need to change and adapt to that. Technology, whatever. The systems are changing. You do that. What's another one? Change the status quo. Sometimes people want to shake it up, so they change it. Good or bad, that's why organizations will change. The vision or mission changes. One of the things that the leadership's doing is looking at, based on the Commerce City vision, what internally would say within infrastructure we need to do to adjust or modify our mission and vision. What you can change are, in fact, the vision and mission. You can change the structure of the organization. I belonged to a firm at one time that just had lots and lots of layers. At one point they said, we really are bureaucracy, and they just sort of flattened. That made a real difference in how we did things. Leaders and managers. Part of what's going on here is that Commerce City is creating opportunities to have the leaders get coaching and mentoring and leadership development. Because part of what goes on with one of these is if people do not know how to lead and manage successfully, the change never gets done. So that's part of what this is about. And then the Darwin quote is basically, you don't have to be smart, the smartest person in the room or whatever, but you got to adapt and change or you die. Okay, so why do organizations fail to change? And the clue is actually in the cartoon. But go ahead. Why do organizations fail to change? Lots of reasons.
Pride.
What?
Pride.
Pride. What's another one?
Fear.
Fear. What's another one?
Lack of resources.
Lack of resources.
Lack of planning.
Lack of planning. What's another one? Finance. You don't have the money to do what you want to do. Pardon me. What else? You're being quiet. You know you're going to get picked on, right? Yeah, I'm looking at you. I'm picking on you again. What's over here? Got another one? Motivation. Part of what goes on is when organizations try and change, basically about 70% of the time they fail. And I don't tell you that to frighten you from changing. What I'm saying is it just takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work from the leaders, the managers, the employees to get it done. So when you start down this road, it's not easy. But, the deal is if we've got the plan right, if we've got the vision right, then we stick with it. We'll get there. Okay, why they fail? Lack of vision. The leaders and the managers are inexperienced. Again, we're back to them getting some training to work through this. Proper planning. People a lot of times think we can jump into it, rush into it, creates chaos. Employees don't know what's going on. After a while, everybody's like, what was the point of that exercise? The transformation team, that's real crucial to any transformation on the magnitude that you all are going to try this. You need to have leaders and managers and employees on a team that really can help set the vision, provide the support, give direction. Some more reasons. Communications. Everybody goes on about how poor communications are in general, but when you're going through a transformation, you need to have lots and lots. Frequent communications, different kinds of communications, but it's got to be ongoing. So you go through all the trouble associated with a transformation and no one gives you rewards or recognition for doing it, so most people go, why do I put up with the pain? Because it's not worth the gain. So when you go to change an organization, people have to feel like they're being recognized and rewarded for going through it. Second to the last bullet, I can sit in here and talk to you, make great sense about what we're doing, what we're talking about. Intellectually, you buy into it. You say, oh, that makes sense. But if you don't get into it emotionally, if you don't buy into it and say, I really care about this, you won't change. You can come up with more excuses not to do it if you only intellectually get it than if you buy into it emotionally. And what's the biggest reason organizations fail to change? What do you think it is? I'm sorry, what? No, that's part of it, but not the big one. What's the big one? What? That's another one, but that's not the big one. Whoops. I'm sorry. Not having a clear vision of where you want to go. That's part of it. What's another one? Laziness. Attitude. Okay, we're getting closer. Okay? And employees have to buy in. You cannot order change. Okay? Just doesn't happen. If you don't get them to buy in and get them to buy in early, it will not happen. They'll just bump along. Okay, why people resist organizational change. So why don't people change? Let's go. I'm sorry? Set in their ways. It's the way we've always done it, the way we want to keep on doing it, and I'm comfortable with it. Yep. What's another one?
Cynicism.
Cynicism. Oh, yeah. Yep. What's another one?
Fear.
Fear of? I don't know. What's another one? Denial of the problem. That's a good one. What else? Okay, here's a list of why people don't change. Oh, let me go back to this. And this curve right here, any significant change, not just at work, but in people's lives, this generally is how it happens. Okay, notice that big dip before it goes up, and it's whether you've had a really traumatic event happen in your life, whether it's divorce or death, whether it's something as tough of an organizational change. What happens is you have a dip before you go back up into recognizing this will work out. So this is a pretty common graph. And here's why people resist change. I don't know why we need to change. The fear of the unknown you've mentioned. What haven't you mentioned? A lot of folks worry about, okay, I know my job now. I'm really competent at my current job. And now we're going to change to something else. And am I still going to be competent? And so there's that fear. You already have a heavy workload. So here we go. You're working enough hours as it is. And by the way, we're going to dump some more stuff on you so you can take care of this transformation we're talking about. Once you start to change a lot of things, whether it's technology or procedures, don't get changed along with what the organization really wants done. So what you end up is having the old procedures and ways of doing things, the old routines you have, and those cripple where you're trying to go because they're inadequate for where you want to go. Not consulted from the top down. So the leaders tell you we're going to do it. You just go out and start doing things to get you to do it. Okay, so seriously, do you like it if I came up and said, you will change? No. Nobody buys into that. It's just not there. You have to get people involved with what's going on and get their input. Peer pressure. People in a group or at a certain level will all get together and decide we got to protect ourselves. And we're not sure where this is going, but we need to protect ourselves. And one of the things that happens is, pardon me, that you end up with real strong resistance either at different levels or different departments. The biggest group of people who resist change in a large organization are the middle managers. The people at the top have division. The employees are trying to figure out how to do it, but the middle managers resist it because it has more impact on them in their minds than anybody else. And I want it to stay the way it is, and I don't want to lose the pay grade I have, and I don't want to lose the responsibilities and authority. They are the biggest resistors as middle managers. And then the last one's just nasty. Last one's just plain politics. I'm going to put you down to gain for me. I don't care about you. And there's people who do that. Okay, why employees change? This curve up here was initially developed for just companies that were innovative, but what they found is that this pretty much applies to how change is done. If you think of change as innovation of a new way of doing things, that's what this is about. So you get people at the beginning who will buy into anything new. It's just the way they are. Oh, some new change. I'll buy into that in a heartbeat. Well, then you get the people at the other end who resist everything they can and, frankly, at some point may have to exit if they're not buying into what's going on. And then the big bell curve in the middle helps you understand how the majority of people do this. The most influential people on that graph are the early adopters. And they are usually employees who are respected for their opinions. More than the leaders and the managers, it's employees who will get most of it done if you can get the opinion leaders to step up and talk. If they buy into it, you'll get everybody to go along. It's nice to have the leadership guiding it and the managers driving it, but it's the respected employees who will actually turn the company around. So why do you change? As employees, why do employees change? Money. Another one. You guys are quiet over here. Yeah, I'm looking at you. Yeah. Why do employees change?
I thought it was just because I was good looking.
Who knows that guy? Okay, employees do not change because he's good looking. All right. Over here. I don't even believe you said that. Moving on. Okay, why do employees change? Over here.
Because it takes more effort on your own part to not change than it is just to go with the flow at times and just start to...
Oh, I hadn't thought. That's a good one. Okay, did you hear that? It's easier to go with the flow than to resist the change. So you change. Okay. What's another one? Why do employees change? To keep your job. That's not a bad reason to change. All right, over here, what do you got? Why do you change? Why would you want to change?
Actually see a need.
Actually see a need. Another one.
Responsibility.
Increased responsibility. If you think if it's going to change, you get increased responsibility. That's a good thing. Okay, over here I heard somebody.
Tired of the way things are.
Tired of the way things are. It's got to get better. Yep. Okay. I'll probably say this several more times. The big reason people change is if you can engage the employees. It's real simple. If you can get them engaged so they feel they are part of it instead of being just told what to do, employees will change. And going back, I mean, if a leader or manager says we got to change, employees have to feel like they can say, well, that kind of sort of works, but here's what we really need to do, or here's our input on this, so that they feel like they're part of this process instead of just being told what to do. And you got to trust the motives of the people at the top. Okay? That's important. Feel that if you do speak up, there's not going to be any threat of reprisals. Again, we're back to make sure the rewards are going to exceed the pain of the change. The first bullet's interesting. The changes can be successful two different ways. One is small, incremental steps, or you just come in and go, sweep the slate clean, here's what we're going to do. Just sort of half step in between. People don't buy into it. It's either, okay, we'll go along gradually. And a lot of public institutions, whether schools or prisons, metropolitan area, cities, it doesn't matter. You know, the incremental change really seems to work well. You go to private companies, a lot of times what happens is, we're going to start here, we're going to wipe all this out, we're going to go back to here, we're going to tell you how to get there. But sort of half-stepping or trying to figure out it doesn't work. If you see the people around you changing, that's a big deal. That goes back to the opinion leaders. If you have employees who bought into this, really feel confident that where you're going is where you need to go, what should be going on, they express very positively what's going on, then you create change. And then if you want to maintain it, if you get your co-workers and you get the public to buy into what the change is, then you'll generally maintain it and hold it. Okay, there's the 5 phases of transformation. How am I doing, Roger? Good. Okay. First one, performance dip. People, when they have, part of it is when you do a change, performance goes down. And a lot of people think they're going to keep going and produce at the same level. Well, that's not true. I mean, you're trying to learn new skills. You got to adapt to what's going on. People's changed your position and what you're supposed to be doing, who you report to. So why would you think you're going to keep going up? Nope. Thing is, there's going to be some confusion. You're going to dip into performance before you buy into it, before you feel comfortable doing what you're doing, so you don't even have to think about it, and you go up. I always tell people when I first got into the consulting side of the business, and I used to be in GC in the hard construction, the hardest thing I had to learn was I could walk, when I was with the general contractor and actually ran construction, I could walk out onto a job site and tell people what to do. Blah, 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 you'll do that, blah, blah, okay? When I got into consulting and construction management, I no longer could do that. I actually had to go out and get the same things done, but I could no longer go out and tell people what to do directly because I was a consultant. And if you go on a construction site as a consultant and tell some people what to do, they'll tell you what to do. So I had to redefine how I did things. And I always tell people, only after about 2 years did I figure out how to do it and feel comfortable doing it. But it wasn't like someone said, you're a consultant, go out and get this done. I know how to do it. I didn't. So you have to learn how to do it until after a while you're not even thinking about it, you're just doing it. This is a transformation team. I would tell you the two most important bullets up there are the second one, you got to have proven leaders, managers, and you got to have respected employees on that team. A transformation team is not just composed of top leadership. Doesn't work. It's usually not successful. The other is, if you go down to the third bullet from the bottom, focus on a few. What that's about is, and I apologize for standing in front of you, people try and take on way more than they can do. So what you do is you really spread yourself thin, and then after a while people lose interest because you're not accomplishing. All you're doing is lots of little things as opposed to, let's pick 3 or 4. They're called keystone activities. Things that, think of it as, it's like, the proverbial throw a rock in the pond and watch the ripples. That's what you're after, an activity that causes lots of ripples throughout the organization. So you pick a few, and those you do. And then if you can't do it, you walk away. If you're not into it, you walk away. There's no point in being on a team, trying to be a leader, and talking it but not walking it. So if you can't talk it, Can't walk it, then you get to walk away. Lots of times visions are blurry when they start. There's a sense of, we got to change something. Nobody's quite sure what. That's why you do the initial assessment of where you are, what's been working successfully. But you may have a few people who have this vision, kind of, sort of, maybe, but it's got to be changed, it's got to be clarified before you can really go forward, as opposed to sort of working it out as you go along. That just confuses people, especially if you start wiggling and waggling where you want to go. Okay. You need to have an elevator speech. What's an elevator speech? Anybody know? What's an elevator speech? What do you got?
Something that takes you long enough to tell somebody or explain to somebody in an elevator ride.
Did you hear that? Basically, you would have 30 seconds to 2 minutes to explain the vision. I once had someone ask me, we don't have an elevator. What do I do? Somebody in the back of the room raised their hand and said, well, just do a restroom speech. I said, we're not practicing restroom speeches. Okay. Yeah, stairs. Be out of breath, well, that's okay. So an elevator speech is kiss 'em. Keep it short, simple, and memorable. Okay? You want to talk all the way to the top of the Empire State Building on an elevator. By the time you get to the top, whoever you were talking to lost interest probably around the 20th floor. Okay? So give yourself 30 seconds to 2 minutes. And focus on succeeding, not failing. When they teach tightrope walkers to walk a tightrope, the biggest reason they fall is they're focused on not falling. Okay? You got to focus at the other end, not where your feet are going on the rope. Because if you do that, you fall. Even though it's only a couple feet off the floor, which is how they train them. Okay? So back to the, if you're trying to paddle across the swamp, don't pay attention to the alligators kind of thing. Otherwise, who knows what will happen. Interpersonal communications is important because if I can stand up here, I can talk to you about this stuff. You know what I mean? We'll get it done somehow. Well, you'd be falling asleep faster than you can blink. So you have to have a way to communicate that creates excitement, creates energy, gets people to do what you want to do. But just being doesn't get it. The front line, the folks that are out on the front line are the ones that have the hardest time getting the vision because it's either not articulated very well by upper management or the middle managers aren't real crazy about doing it, so it never rolls out to the people who are actually doing work or interfacing with the customers and clients. And so oftentimes communication to get it out accurately and get a lot of it out is not done well. So the real deal is you have to figure out how many different ways you can communicate in an organization to get it done. How much frequency do you need to be doing emails followed by meetings? Do you need to have video conferencing? Do you need to make sure there's small group meetings? But you just have to figure out as many different ways to convey the message as you can. Okay? And there's how most organizations communicate. When a big organization's in place, really, there's all kinds of emails floating around, but the best way to do it is just go talk to somebody. If you believe it, spread the word by talking to people. That's the most effective. And if you don't do it, the hardest thing in the world is to try and retract what the rumor mill has put in place. You're fighting a constant battle. So don't let the rumor mill ruin what you're trying to do. Okay, broad, impactful actions. I talked about keystone actions. Again, you pick a few, something that if you do it, would ripple through the whole organization. It gets people focused. It's just not a dilution of the message. Individual influence, the last bullet, that's a big deal because if you don't have it organized, what it comes back to is the managers will interpret it their way, put their spin on it. And we do it anyway, but the thing is to sort of try and control how much spin goes on it. So what you're trying to do is to get people to say, this is the message, this is the way it should be, we've all bought into it. If it's vague, if it's fuzzy at all, managers will interpret, and with good intention, interpret it their way, but it may not be the way. Third bullet. A lot of times in transformation, what you have are people who work their butts off on the change and never get recognized for it. And the deal is, it doesn't matter if it's a little thing that they're doing along the lines you want them to do it. It doesn't matter if it's a big thing. It doesn't matter if it's an individual. It doesn't matter if it's a group. What you have to do, as soon as someone does something that's aligned along the lines or aligned with the change you want to have happen, you reward them. You recognize them. You know, like have them stand up in a group like this and say, so-and-so did this, and give them a round of applause. It's a little thing. You can figure out ways to recognize them at big public events with plaques or whatever. Municipalities have a hard time, and public institutions in general, going, we're going to give you money. But what's more important than money and recognition is actually informal recognition. Recognition of your manager, recognition of your peers, and study after study show that that's more important than money to people. Because you want to be respected, you want to be well thought of. All right. So, in summary, that means you're up next, Roger. That was my cue. In summary, make sure you know where you are before you get on the road to Steamboat Springs. You know, if you're out in Lamar, that's not going to fly when you're actually in Commerce City. You need to have a clear, inspiring vision. Not just a bunch of platitudes that go together, blah, 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 blah. No, people need to feel inspired. They need to have some kind of emotive connection to it. Leadership guides and management drives. Leaders should help form the vision. Management should help implement it. But the deal is, if you don't get early recognition, buy-in by employees, it'll fail. That's absolutely crucial. You communicate using multiple vision or methods. The changes had to be expansive and deep to last. And then any successes, please celebrate, and it'll help get it done. Recommended reading. And last but not least, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Everyone, please stand up.
Ah, good man. Hey, John. Or do I do it? Oops. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Passing of the baton.
Yes.
What do you think? Charles talked about a lot of stuff.
Thanks, Roger.
Freudian slip. You may sit down if you want. So one of the things that he talked about is, what's the organizational vision? You know, where are we going? And so there's these 4 things that are up on the screen. One is the mission statement, and that's basically who we are, what we're about, what do we value. Then you have the vision statement itself, which is what do we want to become. Both of those serve as a way to communicate to the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Well, it's us, fellow employees. It's communicating back up to City Council that we get where they want us to go. It's communicating out to the citizens that this is what the City Council has set out as the broad vision and goal that we're trying to achieve. So we basically tell them, okay, we've heard, we understand, this is what we're going to do now to accomplish that. And so those are the next things, the strategy and the goals and objectives in terms of how we get there. In terms of what I'm going to talk about, it's going to be about us as an organization being exceptional, what we need to do to become a high-performance organization. That's basically going to take a multi-pronged approach, and then what's expected of you and the next steps that we'll be going through. So in terms of broad perspective, we've had this tagline for a number of years, that we're a quality community for a lifetime. Okay, so what does that mean? It means a lot of different things, and I think it means different things to different people. But the point is, we want to be a quality community, and we want to do it for their entire lifetime, so people can be born here, grow up, retire here. And that means, again, that we have quality infrastructure, quality services, and means that there's opportunities for them to work and to play and basically raise a family if they wish and enjoy life here. So when we did the bond issue for the 2K projects, we talked about how that fits into that tagline vision, if you will, of where we want to go, of being a quality community. The other thing that goes with that, of course, is we can build these fantastic projects, but if we're providing lousy service, doesn't really go well with having high quality facilities. So it really requires both elements. We build quality facilities, and then we also need to provide quality service. So those two elements go together. We're going to be refining this to word it more elegantly, if possible. But again, that's where we need to head towards. How many here have heard of Prairie Home Companion? It's a radio show. Raise your hands. Yeah, a few of you. Okay. It's on National Public Radio, and the rest of you go, oh, okay, that's why I haven't heard of it. However, in this radio program, the narrator, Garrison Keillor, talks about this mythical Minnesota town where he grew up. It's called Lake Wobegon. Now, Lake Wobegon has a tagline. Their tagline is, this is where all the women are strong, all the men are good looking, and all the children are above average. Think about that for a minute. So, raise your hand if you think you're above average. Come on, don't be shy. All right. The truth is, most of us think that we're above average. And in fact, it's now become the Lake Wobegon effect in terms of popular culture. Well, if you haven't heard of it, I guess it's not popular culture, but it's out there in the culture that a number of people call it that when everybody thinks they're above average. Of course, you know that statistically that's not possible because there's just the normal bell curve in terms of how we're all distributed. So my question to you is, are we as the staff of Commerce City government above average? Think about that for a minute. Now we can compare ourselves to the community, and we probably at that point can say, yeah, we're above average. And the reason for that, number one, you're well educated. Number two, you were hired because you fit the attributes of what that job required. So that means you beat out a lot of people to get your job. So by definition, you're above that average because you're the top employee selected. So let's broaden that environment a little bit more. When you compare us as a group of employees to the employees in, say, Aurora, Brighton, Westminster, Thornton, Denver, now, are we above average or not? Probably not. You know, people leave here, go on to other cities to work. That speaks well, because it means we had good employees, they moved on. Means those of us who are left are good employees. Speaks well for us. However, in reality, we're pretty much average with other communities around us in terms of the employee base. So my question to you then is, I'm sorry, hit the wrong button. Are you content with that? Are you happy to be where you're at? Or would you rather be part of a group that's exceptional? Do you want to be exceptional? I think, yeah, we would all like to be exceptional. So that's really the challenge that faces us. How do we become exceptional employees in an exceptional organization? Maybe the more basic question is, why should we try to be exceptional? So let's talk about why we need to go on trying to strive to be better. Well, number one, we keep growing. You know, we've been the fourth fastest growing city in the whole Colorado state. So our population continues to grow. We're bumping up at 50,000 population now. Back in 2000, we were only 21,000 people. You know, so we've more than doubled. We probably won't double in the next 10 years, but we're going to grow significantly. And that puts additional pressure on us to deliver good quality service, because revenues don't grow as fast as the population. At least they haven't in recent years. We also have taken on this little project of building $137 million worth of projects. You know, we advertise it as 5 and 5. So 5 major projects, get them done in 5 years. Well, the reality is we actually have 12 projects, because we have Highway 2 widening. We have a lot of projects like that that aren't part of the 2K projects. So all of a sudden now we're talking 12 projects and many more millions than 137 million. That's a lot of stuff to be shoving out the door. The other challenge is that our revenues exceeded our expenditures exceeded our revenues in 2013. That's the first time it's happened, at least in my tenure here, and I've been here going on 14 years now. In 2015, our operating budget will be over $60 million. Meanwhile, we'll also have capital projects costing about $43 million. So that means our total budget is over $100 million. We're not a little town anymore, so we can't act like a little town anymore. And that puts pressures on us. It raises the bar for all of us. So we need to be able to handle that growth. We need to be able to handle those projects. We need to be able to do that amount of work with the same budget, the same amount of staff, at least initially. Now, thankfully, under the 2K projects, we're able to hire some additional staff, but it has to be, those people have to be specific to those projects. In other words, providing the operation and maintenance of those facilities. And, whatever equipment is necessary, again, needs to be dedicated to those projects, because that's the way the ballot language was written. So the citizens expect that of us. We also need to be more efficient, more effective with what we have. And we need to be able to be more nimble. Again, just because the world is changing, and we've got to be able to keep up with that faster and faster change environment that's going on around us. So that puts a pressure on us to be able to convey, basically competence that we're getting that stuff done. Because that's what the voters did, is they said, well, we think we trust the city council, we think we trust the employees, that you're all going to handle this appropriately. So, pressure's on us now. We need to deliver. So, one of the things we're working on right now is procurement and contracting, because we haven't had procedures in the past. And I know some people react to that saying, oh man, we got to go through this bureaucracy. To some extent, yeah, that's right. Sorry, but we need to be consistent. We need to be able to follow procedures so that when Brian authorizes something, he knows it's going to be done in a certain way that meets the expectations of both City Council and the citizens. So let me ask you, what do you think makes a city government exceptional? Thoughts? What would make us exceptional?
They always do the right thing.
Do the right thing. All right. You willing to write some things down on this flip chart? So the first one is do the right thing. Anything else?
Personnel.
Personnel? Expand on that.
The people that make up the city government.
Okay. In other words, they need to be exceptional or good quality at least?
Above average.
Above average. All right. Above average employees. Efficient. I'll write down efficient here. Anything else? Do more than the minimum. All right. So we as employees do more than the minimum. Anything else?
Hold ourselves accountable to follow through on what we said we're going to do.
Okay.
And if we can't, we need to be transparent as to why.
And if we can't hold ourselves accountable, or if we can't accomplish it?
If we can't accomplish
If we can't accomplish it,
indicate why
be
versus-
transparent. Okay, thank you. Other thoughts? Yes, sir.
Meet the needs of the citizens.
Meet
Or
the,
have an honest concern for the needs of the citizens.
okay, honest concern for the needs of the citizens. Very good. Yes?
Along with that, proactive versus reactive.
Be proactive. Okay. You notice I'm writing down the one-word summaries. Sorry.
It's called delegating.
Yes, yes. Anything else? Other thoughts?
Achievable goals.
Achievable goals. Okay, good. What else?
Have a concern for the employees' needs
Have a concern for the employees and
and their needs.
the needs. Okay. Anticipate employee needs. Okay. Okay. Other thoughts?
Structural cohesiveness.
Structural cohesiveness. What do you mean by that? I think I know, but
As an organization, when you're solid from the outside to the center.
okay.
The way it's set up now, the outside is the management and the center is loose. There's no cohesive there. You
Okay.
need structure where we all work together as an organization
Okay.
and not a power source.
Yeah.
as it is.
Good. Good. Other thoughts? Yes.
Having adequate staff and resources.
Having adequate staff and resources. Okay.
Her handwriting's cleaner than yours.
It is? Would you like to replace me? Other thoughts? Need good leaders who aren't just in leadership roles. Okay, good. Other thoughts? Yes, sir. Be innovative. Okay. Training. Okay. Other thoughts?
Thinking outside the box.
Thinking outside the box. Okay. I saw one in the back there. Yes, sir.
System structure from the HR division.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Consistent structure
Oh, consistent structure. Okay.
from the HR.
From the HR division. Okay.
Employee morale.
Employee morale.
What I mean by that is like no segregation. Get this.
Yeah, so consistency in terms of applying policies and responses and all that. Okay. Other thoughts? Teamwork? All right. Do you want to come over to this one otherwise? Since we're filling that one up. Listen? Okay. Oh, listen to the citizens. Okay. Other ideas? This is a good list. I'm not trying to imply that it's...
Specific answer you're looking for?
No. Nope. Yes, sir. I still don't hear it. Reality. What do you mean by that? Ah, gotcha. Okay. Recognize the reality of working within your means. Okay?
Don't spend so much money on something, just let it sit.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Have fun? I like it. Okay, so you get a picture of, what it means to be exceptional. And I think that gives us a good start in terms of where we need to go. Forget that I have this thing in my hand. So now, what do you think would prevent us from becoming exceptional?
Same terminology, so just
The negative side of these? Okay. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, basically having leaders that tell us one thing and do something else, or, they tell us this is important that we do this, but then next week we're on to something else.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I heard inconsistency, resistance to change, but the big one, Ray summed it up. It's the opposite of all the positive things. Anything you think we missed?
Failure to plan.
I'm sorry?
Failure to plan.
Failure to plan? Okay, yeah, we don't have planning on the positive side, so. Yes, sir. Failure to promote.
Because we have existing properties that we can't get, say for instance, fast food chain, up north, there should be more organizations like corporations bringing in more stuff.
So like economic development type of promotion? Okay, all right. I heard something here. Lack of follow through. Okay. All right. Well, I think that gives a good picture of what we need to do versus what could hold us back. John Wayne said, even though you fear things, saddle up anyway. So that's basically what we're doing. we've got a lot of work to do, and some of this is kind of scary. But I don't think we have a choice but to try to achieve what we need to achieve, and that is to become an excellent organization. So let's talk about some bad behaviors. And I want to think about your own self here. I want to, think about people that you work with. Some of the bad behaviors that you've seen. Who here has ever complained to their supervisor without bringing any solutions? I know I did in the past. I think we have a tendency to do that. We need to fix such and such. Okay, how? Well, I don't know. It just needs to be fixed. Well, I'm sure you have ideas. And I recognize that sometimes supervisors aren't real willing to listen to those ideas. That's what we need to work on. Because we need to have that communication all the way through the organization. Do you ever bring an issue without doing any research about it? Do you say, they are the problem? Over in finance, they want us to do blah, blah, blah. Or, can you believe what the PD is doing now? Over in public works, they do that. Okay. We need to look at ourselves. What do we contribute to that problem? Do you ever complain about a person but not talk directly to that person? It's like, can you believe what Ray did? Man, why? He treated me like dirt. Well, if I don't talk to Ray, it doesn't do any good. So we have to have the courage to be able to talk to people. And one of the trainings that HR is working on is how to have crucial conversations. So look for that coming in the future. Because it's how to be polite, how to maintain a relationship or even build a relationship, and yet say those things that need to be said. Sometimes that's a little daunting to be able to say, do you realize in the morning your breath just knocks people out? It's not really a nice thing to talk about, but, the person may appreciate hearing it. So the last one is, do you tend your own little garden? In other words, I'm going to take care of my problems, but, meanwhile I'm going to be tossing whatever problems I don't want to handle over to the person next to me. Yeah, we see that happen. Hey, it's not my problem. It's not my job. So, what do we want? We as an organization, you, me, city manager, executive staff, what do we want? So, basically, Brian has summed this up, I think, the best. We need to be able to function and work in the best interest of and in service to, number one, the community. Number two, the city council, who are the elected representatives of the community. And then to the organization itself. And I've categorized all of that as basically, being focused on the customer. And so that's why, we started with the training on customer service. Because that is absolutely crucial. How we treat each other, how we respond to the public, how we respond to city council. All of those elements are crucial. And it comes from our motivation. We need to be able to provide accountability. So that means you being accountable to the person sitting next to you, being accountable to your supervisor, being accountable ultimately to the citizens, that we're doing the best that we can with the resources that we have been given. We need to be clear in our communication, clear in our purpose. We need to be able to engage the workforce, and that's why we're having these meetings. That's why we're doing the training sessions that HR has set up. Again, because if frontline employees don't get the message and don't know how to provide a certain type of service, that's a failure of the entire organization. That's a failure of management. It's a failure that goes ultimately all the way up to the city council. So that's not something we want. We want to be able to provide the best service that we can. We need to be consistent organization-wide, and that's the alignment, where we're aligned with each other and aligned with the goals that have been set out for us and the direction that's been set out for us by the city council through the city manager. We also need to help the organization be more nimble, because we're going to have to respond faster and faster to a faster changing environment. So all of that means generating peak results from the resources we have, which isn't news to all you guys. You know, we have limited resources, yet we're going to have to provide the best service that we can. So to do all of this in terms of get to where we need to get to, we're taking this multi-pronged approach of doing system development work. And when we talk about systems, I know the IT guys and gals say, system, that's not a system. I'm thinking in terms of a software system. Now, I'm talking about a system in terms of policies, procedures, forms, processes, those type of things. That's all forms a system. So we're setting up a procurement system. We're setting up a contract management system. Taking baby steps, but we'll get there. We also are working on the policies themselves. So procurement policy, for example. That's one of the things that the city council insisted be put in place before we started these 2K projects. So we drafted up the policy, took it to the city council, tweaked it based on their feedback, and now they've adopted that policy. So it's an official policy, it's in place. So now we've got to put all of the procedures and forms and processes in place to match that policy. And then there's the performance management and accountability. And I know everybody loves their performance evaluations. It's such a wonderful thing to go through every year, right? Well, we're working on those as well. And I know that's one of the ultimate goals for HR is to improve on those performance evaluations. It'd be easy if it was just, 3 symbols. However, it's not quite that easy. But, we've had people joke before, either you're keeping me or you're letting me go, one of the two. Well, it has a higher purpose in the form of trying to provide feedback so that we can improve ourselves. Again, sometimes the message isn't what we want to hear, but we need to hear it in order to improve. So that's definitely something, but there's also other ways of providing accountability. Part of it is just the informal person-to-person interaction where, if we see someone not following proper safety procedures, for example, talking to them and saying, hey, I'm worried about you getting hurt. This is the procedure we're supposed to follow. It's as simple as that to then doing organization-wide type of performance measurement of how many acres do we mow with how many mowers and how many people, those type of things. So again, it's developing all of that. Part of it is the staff learning and training. So that's why HR has set up all of the training sessions. There's a lot of them before the end of the year. And I know managers are saying, man, my people are busy. I can't afford to take the time to have them go to the training. But if we are going to become an exceptional organization, we've got to do the training. We all need to learn to build our skills. And then there's the continuous improvement methods. And again, it's looking at what we're doing now and figuring out, is there a better way to do that? Can we do it faster? Can we do it more efficiently? Can we do it with less paper? Can we do it with less money? Those type of things. And I know you can read this from the back, but I apologize. This was the structure that I laid out as a proposal back in June in terms of how this whole organizational development effort would be organized. So it was broken into four main groups of policy and systems development, performance management and accountability, leadership development and staff training. Looking at a little different breakout now, I think as we've worked through this, I think there's some tweaking that we need to do. So there's arrows on here, but that just shows that they're all related. It does not show a sequence. So I don't want you to pay attention to the arrows a whole lot. So just starting with organizations and the development that or the operations development. That involves things like the policies and procedures. It involves the training, all of those type of things. There's the leadership development. So that means a couple things. That means developing our existing leaders to be better skilled, higher quality, higher performing. But it also involves training employees to become leaders and how to lead within your existing position. Now, that doesn't mean that if I'm a neighborhood services inspector, for example, I get to start telling the deputy city manager what he should do. That's not what we mean by developing leaders in place. It means developing you so that you can take leadership positions within your work group. And part of that leadership is speaking up when you see someone not following proper safety procedures, for an example. So again, it's developing the leadership that we need within place, but also developing people who can step up to higher positions later. Excuse me. There's also a workforce focus, and again, that ties back to the training. It ties back to making sure that you have adequate resources, which you talked about earlier when we talked about what makes a high-performance organization. There's also strategic planning. We talked about the need of planning. Well, we need to be able to know where we're going. As Charles said, if we're headed to Steamboat Springs and we think we're in Durango, when in reality we're in Pueblo, that makes a huge difference. We're not going to be able to get to where we want to go unless we know where we are and also know where we need to go. There's the whole measurement analysis and knowledge management. So, again, we talked about performance measurement and management. That ties in with the measurement and analysis. There's also knowledge management. One of the focuses that we had for the triage team is document management, because right now there's no system in place really for document management, and where documents are stored is rather scattered. At one time the L drive was the document repository. It's kind of gotten to be a unwieldy haystack, so trying to find a needle in that haystack may be a little challenging. There's also the customer service focus, again tying back to the training that Ruby did on customer service and what we talked about earlier. So all of that ties together, and every component of that is crucial to our overall effort. Sorry, again, hit the back key. So what's my role? My role is to support the system's triage teams, and you'll notice that it's plural. We have a triage team that was set up. They worked for 2 weeks, have done some excellent work coming up with the procurement process and system, as well as the contract management. And they started looking at document management and came up with a system for systems, if you will, in terms of how we would attack future projects. But there's going to be multiple teams. There'll be more teams later. In fact, we have a safety team. We have a benefits team. We have a team that's working on contract routing. We have a team that's working on change order process. All of those things are happening right now. My job is also to facilitate that ongoing implementation of those policies and procedures. And then those systems that we've set up are going to have to be transitioned from being kind of the beta mode, their test. We're going to have to go to tweaking those, refining those, and that's going to be an ongoing process, basically. We need to develop the accountability systems, do additional systems development, and then keep looking for opportunities for improvement. That's going to take more than just me working on it. In fact, the city manager can't do it alone. All of the leadership team can't do it. You alone can't do it, but you are critical to getting it done. because it takes every one of us to be able to get that done. I would like to give you a little demonstration of the power of words. So ask Joe and Jody to come up here. Joe, I would like you to stand here, face the audience. Jody, you can, I'll give you the cue on when to do what I've asked her to do. So Joe, I'm going to turn my back to you. Look at me. Repeat the words I'm going to say. You don't have to believe them at all. Just repeat them. Okay. Say, I'm the strongest, best-looking dude around.
I'm the strongest, best-looking dude around.
I'm a great father, wonderful husband, super employee.
I'm a great father, wonderful husband, super employee.
I do the best I can do every day, and my supervisor loves me.
I do the best that I can do every day, and my supervisor loves me.
Now hold your hands out. Jody, if you would, pull his hands down. See if you can pull his arms down. Okay. You can put your arms down. Repeat after me. Don't have to believe these words. I'm a lousy father, and I stink as a husband.
I'm a lousy father, and I stink as a husband.
I'm a terrible employee. My supervisor hates me, and I mess things up every day.
I'm a terrible employee. My supervisor hates me, and I mess things up every day.
I'm really ugly. My breath stinks. People try to avoid me.
I'm really ugly. My breath stinks. People try to avoid me.
Hold your arms out. Jody, pull his arms down. He did well, but you notice the difference. The difference is when you believe, let me repeat that, when you believe, you have power. And so when you say negative things to your fellow employee, what do you think that does to them? And when you think negative thoughts, what does that do to you? My point is, all of us focus on things that bug us. So we need coping mechanisms to move beyond those. And everybody has different ways of doing that. You know, for some, it's meditation. For others, it's religion and prayer. Whatever works for you. I'm not here to advocate a system to you or an approach. But the point is, you need to get rid of negative and you need to focus on positive. Thank you both. So what we expect of you is that positive attitude. We expect you to embrace discomfort. You say, that doesn't make me feel comfortable. Well, you're right. But we need to embrace discomfort because that's how growth happens and that's how change is accomplished. I'm sorry. We need to be accountable to each other. We also need to be advocates of the change that needs to happen. You also need to be a source of urgency. So that means a number of things. Again, if you see a safety issue, you need to jump on it. Not literally. You need to act on it immediately. When we talk about change and what we need to accomplish, that's not something that we can do 10 years from now or even 5 years from now. We need to start working on it now. I would ask you also to support your triage team member. Someone in your department is a member of that team now. And in the future, there's going to be other teams. And you heard about safety team, benefits team. There are people from your department who are on those teams. So you need to interact with that person and provide feedback so that they have that good sense of what is needed in your department. So all of us need to solve problems and keep things moving. Let me talk to you a little bit about satisfaction and contribution. And this is a blessing white illustration. And if your supervisor has not talked about it, I would encourage you to ask them to have HR come in and talk to your group and walk you through this. So what this shows is basically two different axes. One is the individual going this way, the other is the organization up to the upper, looking at it, upper right. And you have success on both axes. And in the very middle, it's a little hard to see, but the laser is too light to be able to see it. At the very peak there, you see that little orange triangle. That's being totally engaged. On the sides, you see the crash and burners, and that's where someone is just working like crazy, putting in overtime, working long hours, just trying to get something accomplished. There is the danger of crashing and burning. There's the danger of burnout. On the other side, you have the honeymooners and hamsters. Those are the people that just are kind of just sleeping, or they're just sightseeing, not really being all that productive. And then at the bottom, you have the disengaged. So one of the exercises that you'll go through when you do this with human resources personnel is, what sector are you in? Or are you in multiple sectors? So think about that. Are you engaged or are you disengaged? There's a bunch of additional information that HR staff will go through with you in terms of how engaged are you. I'll be honest with you. I've been in every one of those sectors at different times. And I think most of us, if we were honest, would say that's true, for yourself. So what are our next steps? Our next steps are to oversee, completion of those existing policies. I'll be using the internal service departments, excuse me, to develop the protocol for organizing those systems and categorizing policy types. We'll be doing the policy archiving and numbering and tracking and all that type of thing. We're also working with the triage team to put a bow on what they're working on right now, so we can get the procurement and contracting procedures out where everybody can use them. Then there's also taking care of the next, quote unquote, 20 priorities. Where that came from is in the leadership retreat back in February, the top 20 priorities were identified. And procurement was one of the very top ones, but there's 20 things we need to accomplish. So we're going to keep chipping away at that list and just keep taking care of those items. And then there's identifying other opportunities for improvement and then using teams to work on those opportunities for improvement. Any reactions and thoughts? I'm actually ahead of schedule, so we've got a lot of time for discussion if you want. Yes, sir.
Well, I know we're going through all these classes and stuff, and I don't want to sound pessimistic or anything like that, but it sounds like Commerce City is doing the same thing they've been doing for the last 10 years since I've been here. You're telling us what we need to do instead of getting together and just saying, hey, we're going to have this great thing and bringing an optimistic view into it and then letting everybody get excited about these classes instead of, because right now you're just surprising us with this, or unless I missed something or it wasn't memorable, saying that, hey, we're changing, this organization is growing, let's do it together, let's be a team. I must have missed that memo or the email, because right now it sounds like you're just doing the same thing Commerce City's been doing for the last 10 years. And I'm not trying to be pessimistic at all, but get us involved and actually let us feel pepped up about it instead of you're doing this, you're doing that, we're doing it. Because that's really not changed. That's the same way you've been doing it for years.
Yeah, to an extent, I agree with your comment and acknowledge that. Where I would disagree is I think that we're trying to build off of what was done in the past, there for a while there was a heavy emphasis on teams, and then that went away through a change of management. And now again, we're trying to use teams to involve employees. So the involvement really, I think the focus of the involvement is on the problem solving, in terms of a benefits committee, safety team, those different elements. Because those are composed of people from different departments at different levels of the organization. So they're cross-functional, they're cross-structural, whatever you want to say. To the extent that I agree with you, yeah, if we weren't so compressed for time, I would have said, sure, it would have been wonderful to have more interactive meetings to talk about, where do we go. But again, looking at the time pressure with the 2K projects, they're under design. They're going to be under construction here shortly. It's not like we have a whole lot of time. So from that standpoint, I acknowledge your frustration, but at the same time, I would encourage you to look at the positive side that, there are these teams that involve people. And not everybody is going to be on a team, but you certainly have the opportunity to talk to the people who are on the teams and provide input. So I guess I would try to encourage you to focus on the positive side of that. The other part of it is, as we do these training sessions and seminars, it's a good opportunity for feedback as well. And I know Brian is looking at all hands meeting again coming up. So trying to provide that opportunity for that feedback. The other thing that I think needs to happen is we need to have communication that can flow up and down through the organization without there being clay barriers. Unfortunately, that's one of the problems that we face. And I know different departments have different cultures, if you will, different environments, and so different department directors are trying to attack that in different ways. So again, to the extent that you can be an advocate for that and help that process, I would encourage you to do that.
Well, and I'm on one of the teams.
Okay.
It's a great direction we're heading, and it's a positive direction we're heading. But when it's always presented as it's been presented in the past, what direction is that going? I mean, we need to be part of something that we feel we got a great staff, and the staff's changed a lot since I've been here.
Right.
And it's people with intelligence. If we utilize the people that we have, we'll have a better organization. But if we be treated like it was in the past, the intelligence gets pushed to the wayside.
Right.
I don't think we want that.
You're exactly right.
So.
Yeah. Because for us to become an exceptional organization, we need everybody's intelligence and input.
Exactly.
So, as you see ways of accomplishing that, I know I would love to hear them. Jim would love to hear them. So, again, it's part of that interaction that needs to happen. So, at any time you want to, if you have an opportunity, you have something that you want to bring forward, give me a call or give Jim a call. The only problem with Jim's schedule is it's packed. So it's tougher to get a hold of him. But again, I would encourage you to talk to your supervisor, and if the supervisor is the problem, then others need to hear about that as well. So again, I'm not trying to encourage sabotage from the ranks, if you will, mutiny, but we've got to have that communication. And if the supervisor is not part of the communication, then the supervisor is part of the problem, quite frankly. So.
There's also the saying is...
I'm sorry?
There is also the saying, be the change you want to see. In other words, if you want things to change, you have to change yourself.
She said, be the change you want to see.
Right. Yeah. Because you have to change you before anything else is going to change.
That's a very good point.
Like you said, if you're always seeing the negative, that's all you're ever going to see. And you're going to affect that negativity to the people around you.
Right.
You have to be positive in the way you approach your job and the things that happen to you in your life in order for you to make a change.
Could you hear her back there? Okay. No, that's okay. You don't need, but I just wanted to make sure people could hear what you said, because it's important. Other thoughts? Yes, ma'am.
I just kind of wanted to build off the previous comment, and every department might be different, but the way it was presented to us was these are mandatory classes, signed up for what? And big picture really wasn't presented to us of what the goal is and what we're trying to accomplish with all these. So I think that would be very beneficial, and that it was kind of consistent with all the departments.
Yeah, and that's why I apologize at the beginning. We meant for these sessions to give you that big picture in terms of where we're trying to go. And unfortunately, the timing just didn't work out very well for that. But yeah, we want everyone to know that where we're headed is organizational excellence. That's the ultimate goal. And it's going to take all of us to get there, and that means the training is necessary and the teams are necessary, all of that.
I know that you said some of the expectations have been set by council, and I know that there's all those special rules about how they communicate with us and all that stuff, but I kind of think at some point too, like, me as an employee and being here as long as I have been, I've gone through a bunch of different councils, and they've always had, you know, different ideas, and I'm glad that they're kind of on board with, like, moving things forward, getting the big picture of being a bigger community and having more involvement and getting everybody on board, but I don't know if you guys as leadership staff or whatever can kind of tell us what their expectations are. I mean, because ultimately that's, to me, that's kind of where, if they aren't getting met what their expectations are, then we aren't doing what we need to do when the changes aren't being met that need to be changed, you know, because I kind of agree. We were just told, you know, these are these classes, and I think we're headed in the right direction from being here a while. It is a move and the right things to do and to get everybody on board. And you know, I just wonder if there's a way that we could kind of know what their expectations are and kind of how, you know, I get that organizational excellence is the goal, but there has to be some other steps and some other thoughts around how you get there and not just, you know, here's these classes type of thing. So,
to answer you, I can give you kind of a broad answer. I'm not sure it'll satisfy what you're looking for. So she was asking about, well, can you give us a better picture of what the council's goals and focus is? Is that a good way to summarize it? One of the things is the example of the procurement policy. They've adopted a policy. That's their expectation, how we're going to do business. So one of the things that the procurement policy says is, if you are going to have an acquisition over $5,000, you need to get quotes. If it's going to be over X dollars, it needs to be bid. You know, it's not good enough now to call Joe, my buddy, to come in and do whatever service, whether it's electrical service or if it's special snow plowing or whatever. That's not good enough anymore. You know, it has to be competitive, and it has to be transparent so that everybody knows what that process is. So that's one of the expectations that they've set out. You know, we need to function as a professional city. We need to be transparent so that the citizens know that their money is being spent to achieve the best value possible. So, you know, those are some of the goals that they've set out for us on procurement. You know, and so it's those type of policies that they put in place that broadcast their expectation, basically. And so, you know, when we've talked to them in budget sessions and that type of thing, you know, one of the city manager's goals was, well, we need a balanced budget. Okay, that's great. We need to take care of employees. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it means giving employee raises to the extent that the city can. It means providing training to the extent that resources are available to do that. You know, so again, if you look at what is happening, those are in alignment with what council's expectations are. You know, they want the employees to be have the resources available that they need to do the job. And so that's comforting to all of us, because to the extent that we have the resources available, you know, we're going to have the training we need. It means we're going to have the equipment we need. So, you know, again, in broad concept, those are council expectations and what they've set out for us. Yes, ma'am.
So just with clarification with all that, we know what the goal is. The goal is organizational excellence. But what are the objectives? What are the measurements for that? What is expected of all of us, and what does council want? I can't imagine that they just have this overall goal, and then it'd be helpful to have that somewhere that we can refer to with the objectives, with measurements, so that we know if we're meeting what their goal is, because we may have a different view of what that goal is.
Good question. One of the elements, of course, is with the 2K projects, one of the expectations and measurements is getting those projects done within the 5 years that was promised to the voters. So that's an obvious performance metric right there, because we need to get those projects done. Well, they also want it done transparently. So that means bidding the projects. That means advertising that these are available for proposals to come in now. So it's those type of things. Now, beyond that, in terms of when you start getting lower into the organization, that's where it gets tougher, and that's where we're working on it as we go along, quite frankly. I don't want to mislead anyone that, there's this grand strategy, we just can't reveal it. All of us are human, and so we're trying to figure it out as we go along, and
Really nice is like on the internet or emails that come out through communication, is just to have that working document, so as things are figured out, know where we are and where we're going, because again, we have a lot of employees, part-time employees and all, that can't attend these types of meetings, and to have something and to go through with them and make sure we're giving them the right direction, to have that all. And some people get more out of reading something than hearing something, and having it in multiple ways would be really nice, so that we can give that overall goal, objective, and all to everybody. And even if it is a work in progress, to have that work in progress down, so that we are able to communicate that and get it right.
Sure. And Communications Division has been working on that whole communication plan. And, as we've been developing these, different elements to the overall organizational development effort, whether it's the training or these seminars, we've been trying to get that information out. So again, if you have suggestions on better ways to do that, we're all ears, whether it's me or the Communications Division, because, again, we're not so brilliant that we know it all. Quite honestly.
I remember back in the past, I think I have a loud enough voice.
You do, but
okay.
I don't know if it's picking up on, I started thinking about it.
I remember when I worked for a company back in the past, they were implementing new stuff, and I mean, it was totally new because they were going bankrupt and they were a multi-million-dollar company. The first thing they did was they actually rented Mile House Stadium and brought in all the employees from around the state of Colorado. Now, and I'm saying that Commerce City has to do that, but, they brought us in and they handed out gifts and they did buses and they fed us and they made us feel wanted, and they said, we're changing, and if we don't change, we're going to lose everything. And from that point on, anything they implemented became part of that first start kickoff, and we knew it. And like I said before, we just want to be part of something, but when you throw stuff at us and saying, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do. And I know you didn't have time and stuff like that, but it made a big impact on the employees. We had the store I worked in, we didn't have a turnover for 5 years. Just because of that initial kickoff. And they made it strong, and it was structured, and it followed through, and it was a great thing. It was great for the organization. And now they're still a billion-dollar company. So, I mean, it's just a thought.
Yeah.
Just get us all involved.
Pass it on to the end there.
Just going off what Ray was saying about the classes and stuff, we have no communication with our department. We're out in the field. We hardly get to check our email. So it's hard for us after a long day. Come in, we have 5 minutes to check our email, because there's 20 plus guys trying to check their email on 3 computers. Or two pretty much. But so it is an issue. So And that's
So-
just saying lack of communication. Even I'm not saying speaking for all our whole division, but in our department, it's tough.
So, a couple of responses. One is, I know in the budget, there's
I understand that.
more computers coming.
Yeah.
But number two, yeah, it's a recognized problem where information is not flowing the way it should.
Well, as a supervisor, you want to inform all your guys.
Right,
Don't stay silent because we're going to have no idea.
right.
So.
No, excellent point. And that's what we do need to correct. I agree.
But I was just, listening to Ray, and I'm thinking, or I've observed that I don't see management showing appreciation for their employees. I don't see the reward or, pat on the back, good job kind of thing a lot. And I think that would be a benefit.
And when you say reward, what do you have in mind?
Well, everybody wants money.
A burrito?
Yes, I mean, it's the little things that count. Well, for some people, but food, lunches, gifts, cards, stuff like we used to do.
Okay.
Bringing that back.
All right.
Because a prime example is the other night we did 16 hours on the flood. I worked all day, go home, slept for an hour, and came back in and worked another 9 hours. I didn't hear crap. One of the employees brought in donuts and said, "Great job." An employee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The recognition is just a small thing.
Sure.
A 30-cent donut, it felt good, but it was an employee. It should have been my boss.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yep.
The words thank you sometimes don't come.
Say that again?
Even the words just thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. I'll pass it down here. Go ahead.
I came on as a seasonal. My dad is a facility maintenance manager for a long time, and he's so stressed out about his job. He's always undermanned, but he's got good guys that work for him. And when I was talking about reality, that's what it's about. It's about reality. Commerce City, I've lived here for a long time. It's gone downhill. It really has. I live here. I went to school here. This place sucks. I'm telling you. It really does. You guys are trying to be like everybody else. And to be exceptional, you have to be yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to say, okay, we have this budget. Let's keep to this budget. Let's not destroy this. Let's not do this. This place has changed a lot. And it's not Commerce City anymore. And I hate to say that, and I'm not a negative person. I'm a very positive person. But I see the stress that my father goes through and all these other supervisors. That's why they don't have time to give you recognition, because they're so stressed out about their jobs and all the quotas that they have to meet. That's not realistic. You put stress on yourself, people die. People aren't happy with their jobs. From what I understand, there's been a lot of turnover in the city. It's been a lot of managers, a lot of supervisors. Yeah, change is good, but you have to be honest with yourself. You have to have faith that you can do it, and you have to be true. And what I mean by that is, if you say you're going to do something, do it. Otherwise, don't do it. So.
Good point. Yep.
My name is John Lucero, and on a positive note, and Roger knows this, is that I attend safety meetings with management. I'm the only employee that's not management that attends these meetings. Oh, and which is a positive note. I mean, that's I believe the city is going in a better way than, but I do believe there's other stuff that can get some input from the employees also, not just safety stuff. Sure. And implement something like where employees get involved with other things, and because we're a group right here, I've been pushing this. I want to know what they do. I think they should know what us truck drivers do. I think they should ride with us one night, whoever it is, and see what we go through. Educate yourself on what a plow truck driver does.
I know the police offer ride-alongs, so it'd be interesting. Set up a ride-along program on snowplows.
Roger. I kind of agree with John on these committees, benefits, safety. More the frontline employees need to be involved with that process if you're going to get us to all buy in, so we know what our health insurance is going to be. Everything that affects us, the frontline people should be more involved.
Okay, good point. Thank you.
And be afforded the time to do it.
Right. That's the tough part. Yes.
Speaking to the gentleman who was talking about getting recognized, the police department recently began a program called the Employee of the Month.
Okay.
And so anyone in the department can nominate another employee for whatever it is. We have a sheet that we fill out, and we submit those to Annette, and then they're all voted on. And so Liz was recently promoted for Employee of the Month for working on the budget. So it may be that you had said to speak to your supervisor, you might want to do that and say, police department has this program, and maybe we could implement it in ours. And, she gets like a lunch with her supervisor and, a plaque, and she gets a special parking spot.
Whoa.
And it's not necessarily a huge
right.
monetary thing, but it's nice to be recognized by your fellow employees who can say, he what's his name? What's your name?
Ray.
Ray went over and above by, he went home, he had 1 hour of sleep, he came back, he's a team player, he's a go-getter, just more of the positive things, because it doesn't have to be this great, big to do. It's just nice to be acknowledged.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. We have the Spot Award program, and I know that unfortunately some departments it's not utilized very well. It's spotty. Yeah.
Roger, that's the thing right there. What she just talked about, this is exactly why morale's bad. Is because they get to implement a program, but the whole city's not involved.
That was the chief's.
But do you understand what I'm saying? HR does not get involved with stuff like that. That should be in a policy that's with the whole city. Public Works has the same thing, the Parks Division, Police Department. Everybody should be involved in that. It shouldn't be just we come to a meeting and guess what, guys? We get to have an Employee of the Month. Sorry for you guys.
Yeah.
Maybe no, but you got to understand. You got to understand that we're all human, and I understand you said it as a positive thing, but remember, we got to go talk to our management to say, hey, they get that.
Right.
We don't get that.
And that's why we talked about consistency earlier. We do need that consistency. Yes, go ahead. We need to wrap up, but
okay,
so
real
make
quick.
that our last comment.
I've only been here for about a year, a little over a year. I came from not any municipality, private business. The way they treat you guys here, in my opinion, with the dinners and the barbecues, is unheard of outside of here. It really is. I think that the changes I've seen just in the time I've been here are very positive. So I just thought I'd...
Okay.
And we got a good group of people. I mean, we got some good people that work here too.
Yes. And I want to emphasize that point, absolutely. And I know in talking to Brian, he really values what all of you do. He values you as individuals. And I do as well. And I think I can speak for Jim. I haven't had those conversations with Jim, but their heart is in the right place in terms of wanting to make this a great organization, wanting this to be a good environment for all of us to work in. And so I would like you to think on that, take that home with you. But I really appreciate you taking the time. And I realize we're saying this is mandatory, but at the same time, this does take a big chunk out of your time and your schedule. But we think it's invaluable for us to have this conversation and for you to see where we're trying to go in terms of we, the management, what we've been working on. And I appreciate Ray's comments about, hey, involve us at the beginning. That's taken to heart. So again, thank you all. Have a great day. See you later. Yep.
Special meeting if it is required.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any more discussion on that? Seeing none. Monica, could I have roll call on Mr. Quintana's motion?